My brother used to call me the Picasso of petunias and joke I wrote invoices on napkins, always in front of an audience. Now he's broke, jobless, dumped, and crashing at our parents', and I just deleted his voicemail. Growing up, my brother and I were inseparable. I was the quiet, steady one, always thinking things through, while Ryan was loud, confident, always the center of attention whether we wanted him to be or not. We used to spend whole afternoons biking around the neighborhood, racing down the hill near Willow Creek until the streetlights flickered on. Back then, his jokes were funny and harmless, the kind that made our parents laugh at the dinner table. Back then, I thought we had something unshakable. My name's Daniel. I'm 36 years old, born and raised in Indianapolis. I run a small landscaping business, just me, a pickup truck, and a couple of guys I've known since high school. It's not glamorous, but it's honest work. I take pride in that. Ryan, on the other hand, always saw himself as destined for something bigger. He was the kid who wore sunglasses indoors, the kind who'd introduce himself to strangers like he was already famous. In high school, he won prom king and never let anyone forget it. I didn't mind at first. We were different, sure, but I figured that's just how siblings were. But then the teasing started. At first, it was little things. At a family barbecue, I was talking about a new client I'd landed, Mrs. Halpern, who wanted her entire backyard redone before spring. Ryan laughed. Wow, Danny, look at you. Big time now, huh? Gonna plant a few more bushes and change the world? Everyone chuckled, including me. I told myself it was nothing. Just Ryan being Ryan. But it kept happening. Every time we were around other people, especially when he had an audience, he'd find some way to make a joke at my expense. Dan's got that entrepreneur look, he said once at Christmas, ruffling my hoodie like I was a kid. Meaning he doesn't own a suit and thinks mulch is a personality. I forced a smile. My mom laughed a little too hard. My dad just kept chewing. It was like being in a room where everyone spoke a language I didn't. One where jokes weren't just jokes, and nobody noticed or cared when they went too far. I began to wonder if I was the only one feeling the sting behind his smile. Then came the family dinner at my parents' house. Ryan had invited two of his coworkers, slick guys in tailored shirts with watches that probably cost more than my truck. I came straight from a job, my hands still rough, my boots scuffed with dirt. We were passing around the bread when Ryan grinned and said, "You should see Dan's hands. Man looks like he wrestled a tree to the ground and lost." One of the coworkers chuckled. "Manual labor, huh? Respect." But Ryan didn't stop. "No, really, he runs this landscaping gig. Big shot in the mulch world. You ever need a bush trimmed? This guy's your man. Just don't ask him to calculate the bill too fast. Math ain't exactly his strong suit." There it was. A full belly laugh moment for everyone except me. My mother tried to redirect the conversation. My dad said nothing, just kept eating. I sat there, heat rising to my face, smiling like it didn't bother me. But it did. It really did. That night, I couldn't stop replaying the moment. The tone in Ryan's voice wasn't playful anymore. It was mean. There was something behind it now. Not just teasing, but something uglier. Something that looked an awful lot like disdain. And for the first time in my life, I stopped laughing along. That dinner wasn't the last straw, but it was close. The final blow came 2 months later, during my mom's birthday. She wanted something special, so we all agreed to meet at Kincaid's, her favorite spot downtown. White tablecloths, soft lighting, waiters who corrected you if you pronounced the wine wrong. Not exactly my scene, but I showed up out of respect. Ryan, of course, arrived late and loud, flanked by two of his friends again. Both of them wore the same smug energy he did, like the whole place owed them applause for showing up. I was seated across from my dad, nursing a water while everyone else passed around the overpriced wine list. I had offered to pay for the cake and flowers. Ryan offered nothing but jokes. "So, Dan," one of his friends asked, "still doing the whole yard thing? Business booming?" Before I could answer, Ryan cut in. "Oh, yeah," he grinned. "He's the Picasso of petunias. Real artist with a shovel. We're lucky he even found time to hose off before dinner." Everyone laughed. Everyone except me. I gave a tight smile. Still working hard. Got a new contract with the city last week, public park maintenance. Ryan whistled mockingly. "Look at that. Government work. Watch out, boys, we've got a federal agent in the room." The waiter came by to take orders. I tried to focus on the menu, but my stomach was already turning. I could feel Ryan's eyes on me the whole time, like he was waiting for his next line. When the food came, I figured we might finally get a break. Mom was smiling, Ryan was distracted, and maybe, just maybe, I'd get through the night without another jab. Then his friend asked about my truck. "You still driving that old pickup?" the guy said, already laughing like he knew the punchline. "Yeah," I replied. "It's reliable. Gets the job done." Ryan leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. "Reliable," he repeated, grinning. "That's Dan's brand. Reliable. Affordable. Slightly depressing." His friend burst out laughing. "Hey, man, maybe you could do our yard sometime. I've got a few weeds need pulling. Ryan added, just don't ask him to send an invoice. He still writes them on napkins. That's when something in me snapped. It wasn't just the words, it was the way he looked at me. Like I was beneath him. Like all those years of being the one who never asked for help, who did the quiet, hard work, didn't matter. Not in his world. I put down my fork. You done? The table went quiet. Ryan raised his eyebrows. What? I said. I repeated, my voice steady. Are you done? Relax, man. We're just joking. No, I said, louder this time. You're not joking. You're belittling. You're doing what you always do, trying to make yourself look better by making me look small. He looked taken aback. Jesus, Dan. It's a joke. Yeah? Then why does it only go one way? No one said a word. My mom stared at her plate. My dad cleared his throat, but didn't look at me. I stood up, dropped my napkin on the table. You want to keep laughing? Go ahead. I'm done being the punchline. And then I walked out. Didn't wait for dessert. Didn't say goodbye. Just walked out of that restaurant and into the cold night air. That was the moment I knew. I was finished trying to earn his respect. Because no matter what I did, it was never going to be enough for someone like him. And I was done pretending it didn't hurt. After that dinner, I expected a call. Maybe an apology, or at least some half-hearted text from Ryan pretending like none of it ever happened. But there was nothing. Not the next day. Not the next week. Just silence. It was almost a relief. I kept waiting to feel guilty, but it never came. Instead, I felt something else, a quiet sense of clarity. Like I'd finally stopped banging on a door that was never going to open. I didn't tell anyone I was cutting him off. I just stopped answering. When the family group chat lit up about some upcoming barbecue, I ignored it. When my mom texted asking if I'd make peace for her sake, I let it sit unread. I didn't explain myself. I didn't justify anything. I just disappeared from the parts of the family where he still had a spotlight. And while the messages slowed down, my days picked up. I poured everything into my business. Spring was just around the corner, and the calls were rolling in. New clients. Bigger contracts. I landed a deal with the county to renovate the landscaping around 3 of their public libraries. For the first time in a long time, I stopped checking my phone between jobs. I didn't care what Ryan was posting or saying. I had real things to care about now: sod deliveries, crew schedules, making sure Mrs. Klein's rose beds were perfect before Easter. I think that's when I realized something big. I didn't need him to approve of me anymore. I didn't need his validation, his backhanded praise, his fake interest in what I was doing. I'd spent so many years letting him define my worth, twisting myself into knots trying not to look too sensitive when he crossed the line. But the truth was, Ryan never respected me. Not when we were kids, not when we were teens, and certainly not now. He only saw what I wasn't, never what I was. That used to bother me. Now, I honestly felt sorry for him. There's power in silence. I didn't yell. I didn't throw accusations or type out angry texts. I just left him behind, like a bad habit I finally outgrew. And for the first time, I felt free. The last thing I did was quietly skip my mom's birthday the following month. She had hinted, gently, that Ryan would be there, and it would mean a lot if I showed up. I thought about it. I really did. But then I looked around my workshop, at the list of new clients on my clipboard, at the inbox full of reviews from happy homeowners, and I thought, no, I've built something. A life. A name. A business. And I'm not going to dim any of that just to sit in a room where someone rolls their eyes when I speak. So I stayed home, grilled a burger, and watched the sun set behind a lawn I'd manicured myself. Best damn evening I'd had in years. It started small and Instagram-like on a picture of my new truck. Then a text from Ryan 3 days later. Nice ride. Bro, business must be good. I stared at the screen for a minute, then locked my phone and tossed it on the kitchen counter. No reply. A week passed. Then another message. Hey man, haven't seen you around. Everything cool? I didn't answer that one either. He kept trying. A text about a funny landscaping meme. A picture of our old bikes in our parents' garage with the caption, "Remember these days?" I felt a tiny tug in my chest reading that one, but I still said nothing. Then the tone shifted. So what? You're not talking to me now? Still nothing. A couple days later. Okay, I get it. You're mad. But this is childish, Dan. Seriously. It would have bothered me once. I would have worried about being the bigger person. But now? I felt steady. Clear. I had no interest in playing emotional fetch just because he suddenly missed having someone around to mock. The messages kept coming, and with each one, he sounded more unsure of himself. I don't even know what I did. Was it the dinner thing? You know I was just messing around. You've always been too sensitive, man. That one made me laugh out loud. Sensitive. Right. I didn't block him. I didn't delete his number. I wanted him to sit with it. Let it stew. Let him realize that the silence wasn't anger, it was detachment. I wasn't punishing him. I was just done. Meanwhile, my business was thriving. I hired 2 new guys, upgraded my trailer, and signed a deal with a local builder to landscape every new property in their spring housing development. It was the biggest project I'd ever landed. Every morning, I woke up feeling like I had a damn purpose, not just a paycheck. Word must have gotten back to the family, because that's when the guilt messages started. Mom says you're ignoring everyone now. What's the point of this? I didn't reply. Then, you think you're better than me now or something? Still nothing. Eventually, he got desperate enough to text me about our dad's birthday. You coming to dad's thing on Saturday? He'd be real hurt if you didn't show. I stared at that message for a long time. Not because I felt tempted, but because it was so obviously a trap. Ryan didn't care if I showed up. He cared whether he looked bad if I didn't. I could picture him at the head of the table, telling everyone I was too busy for family now. That I'd changed. He was right, I had. I spent that Saturday redoing a client's front yard, laying down fresh sod and installing solar lights along their new brick pathway. It was quiet, steady work. The kind I used to wish I could talk about at dinner without being interrupted. After the job, I stopped by a diner, ate alone, and checked my phone. For missed calls. 2 voicemails. I deleted them both. By the time I got home, the stars were out, and my hands were sore in the way that always told me I'd earned my rest. Ryan could keep texting. He could keep wondering. Me? I had work to do. Life to build. And I wasn't looking back. It was a Tuesday afternoon when my mom called. I almost didn't answer. I'd been in the middle of drafting a bid for a commercial landscaping contract, trying to crunch numbers before the deadline. But something about the timing, it was rare for her to call during the day, made me pick up. Hi, sweetheart, she said, her voice trying a little too hard to sound light. How's business? I knew where this was going. It's good, I said, keeping it short. Busy. She hesitated. That's wonderful to hear. You've always been so driven. A pause. Then, I wanted to ask, have you talked to your brother lately? There it was. No, I said, already turning back toward my laptop. Not in a while. Another pause. Well, she said, drawing the word out like she was choosing each one that followed very carefully. He's been going through a bit of a rough patch. I didn't respond. Apparently, the text started up he was working for laid off a bunch of people, she continued. And then there was something about credit card debt. I don't know the details, but things are hard for him right now. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling. Here it comes. I just thought maybe, she said, voice dropping to a gentle tone she probably thought would make it easier to hear if you were in a position to help a little. I almost laughed. Not because it was funny, because of how predictable it was. The pattern never changed. Ryan throws stones, and when his house falls apart, I'm expected to rebuild it. I'm not, I said flatly. She sounded surprised. You're not? No, I repeated. I'm not in a position to help. And even if I were, I wouldn't. She was quiet for a beat. Then came the soft sigh. The disappointed one. Daniel, he's your brother. Yeah, I said. He is. I just thought, maybe now's the time to put everything behind you. Why? Because he needs something? That's not what I meant, she said quickly. It's just, he's struggling. We're worried. I stood up, pacing the length of the office. You weren't worried when he was tearing me down in front of everyone. When he was calling me a joke. No one said a word then. That was just Ryan being Ryan, she said, her voice quieter now. Exactly, I said. And I'm done playing along. She didn't argue. Not really. She just said she understood, even though I knew she didn't. But that didn't matter anymore. I hung up, took a breath, and went back to my numbers. That night, I drove past the old neighborhood on my way home. Ryan's place used to have one of those flashy cars parked out front. Now the driveway was empty, the curtains drawn. For a second, I felt something, regret, maybe, or pity. Then I remembered every smirk, every insult, and I drove on. He had built his life on borrowed charm and borrowed money. Now it was time for him to figure things out without mine. It was a Friday morning, halfway through a meeting with a new client, an older couple who wanted their backyard transformed into a low-maintenance garden for retirement. I had sketches spread across the table, notes about shade levels, and a clipboard resting on my knee. We were discussing ground cover options when the front door to my office flew open. Dan. I didn't even have to look up. I knew that voice. Ryan. He stood in the doorway, face flushed, wearing a wrinkled button-down like he'd thrown it on in the car. His hair was a mess, and the confident smirk he usually wore was gone. In its place was something almost frantic. I stood slowly, placing the clipboard on my desk. Can you give us a moment? I asked the couple. They glanced at each other, confused but polite, and stepped outside. As soon as the door closed, I turned to him. You barged into my business. During a meeting. I didn't know where else to go, he said, running a hand through his hair. You've been ignoring me for months. On purpose. He flinched like I'd hit him. I get that. I do. I've been thinking about it. I've screwed up. I know that. Then why are you here? He exhaled, eyes darting around the room. I need help, Dan. Everything's gone to shit. My credit's tanked, I'm months behind on rent, and the job offers aren't coming like I thought they would. I crossed my arms. So you thought you'd just show up here? No warning? No apology? I'm apologizing now, he snapped. Jesus, man, you want me to grovel? No, I said calmly. I want you to take responsibility. I am, he shouted, voice cracking. I'm here, aren't I? Do you think this is easy for me? I looked at him hard. You mocked me. For years. Every family dinner, every chance you had, you treated me like a punchline. I didn't mean it like that, he said weakly. Yes, you did. He dropped into one of the chairs, defeated. I didn't think you'd ever cut me off. I know, I said. That's the problem. He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. Look, I know I've been a jerk. But this isn't just about me. It's about Lily too. Lily? I asked, confused. My daughter, he said. You remember her, right? I stared at him. Don't do that. Don't use your kid as leverage. I'm not, he said, eyes wide. But she's the one suffering. Kelly left. Took Lily with her. She said I was unstable. That I needed to get my life together. I said nothing. He stood again. Please. Just help me get back on my feet. Alone. A job. Anything. I took a breath. No. He blinked. No. You're not my responsibility anymore. His mouth opened like he wanted to argue, but nothing came out. You need to fix your own mess. Like I've been doing my whole life. He looked stunned. Hollow, even. Good luck, Ryan, I said. But don't ever show up here like this again. Then I opened the door and motioned for the couple to come back in. And just like that, Ryan was out of my office and out of my life. A couple of weeks passed. Things were quiet. Peaceful, even. I kept my head down, focused on work. Spring was turning into summer, which meant longer days, bigger projects, more clients. I hired a part-time bookkeeper to help with the office load. For the first time in years, I felt like things were running the way I always dreamed they would. Then one afternoon, I ran into Evan, an old friend from high school who now worked in real estate. We bumped into each other at the gas station. Small talk led to a quick catch-up, and then he said it. You hear about Ryan? I paused. What about him? He's in a bad spot. Eviction notice went up on his apartment door last week. Owes back rent on a luxury place he can't afford anymore. Someone said he's crashing at your parents' house now. I nodded slowly, not surprised. He used to brag about that place, Evan continued. Now he's asking people if they know anyone hiring. I thanked him and got in my truck, sitting behind the wheel a while before starting it. So it had finally caught up to him. The debt, the layoffs, the lifestyle he couldn't maintain without handouts. For so long, he wore success like a costume, sharp suits, big talk, dinners at places that didn't have prices on the menu. But now, the curtain had dropped, and there was nothing behind it but smoke. Part of me felt vindicated, like the universe had finally evened the score. But there was also something else. A weight I hadn't expected. Not guilt exactly, just a kind of heaviness. Like remembering someone who used to be your best friend before they turned into a stranger. That night, I found an old photo in a drawer. We were 10 and 12, riding bikes in our backyard. Ryan had one arm thrown around my shoulder, grinning like he didn't have a care in the world. Back when everything was simpler. I stared at that photo longer than I cared to admit. The next day, I drove out to a new build site we just landed. 3 half-finished homes on a quiet cul-de-sac. I stood in the middle lot, hands on my hips, watching my crew dig trenches for sprinkler lines. The sun was high, my shirt already sticking to my back, and all I could think was, this was mine. All of it. Earned. Built from nothing. While Ryan's world crumbled, mine was finally standing tall. But later that evening, back in my apartment, I sat alone on the couch, beer in hand, scrolling through my phone. I came across a group photo from Mom's birthday 2 years ago. Ryan had his arm around my shoulders again. Same grin, same loud energy. I looked miserable in the picture. But still, part of me missed that version of him. The one who, for a while, actually felt like my brother. Now, he was just a shadow in my past. I turned the phone over and let the silence settle. I hadn't lost a brother. I just finally stopped chasing one who was never really there. It was a Wednesday evening when the letter showed up. An actual letter, handwritten, folded neatly inside a plain white envelope with no return address. I found it in my mailbox wedged between junk coupons and a landscaping supply catalog. I nearly tossed it without opening it. But then I saw the handwriting. Ryan's. That same slanted, too fast scrawl I used to see on birthday cards and bad report cards. Inside, just one page. Dan, I don't know how to start this, and I'm not even sure you'll read it. But if you are, then thank you. Thank you for giving me the chance, even if it's just in silence. I owe you an apology. More than one, really. I've been a crappy brother. I made jokes at your expense because it was easier than facing my own failures. You were always solid, dependable. I wasn't. And somewhere along the line, I got bitter about that. I thought I had everything figured out. But I didn't. And now I see it. You've built something real, Dan. You've done it without help, without shortcuts, without handouts. That's more than I can say for myself. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. But I needed to say it. I'm sorry. For mocking you. For belittling what you do. For treating you like you didn't matter when you always did. You were the better man the whole time. I just couldn't admit it. If I could go back and change things, I would. But since I can't, I'll start with this. I'm sorry, Ryan. I read it twice. Then I set it down on the kitchen table and just stared at it for a while. It was strange, reading those words from him. Not a text, not a half-hearted voicemail, but something real, tangible, vulnerable. Part of me wanted to tear it in half. Say it was too little, too late. That one letter couldn't fix years of hurt. Another part of me, the one that still remembered bike rides and shared Halloween candy, felt something loosen in my chest. I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't respond. Not right away. I didn't tell anyone I got it. I didn't bring it to my mom or show it to a friend. I just let it sit on the table, edges curling slightly over the next few days, like the words inside were waiting patiently for me to decide what they meant. I didn't feel ready to forgive him. But for the first time, I didn't feel like I hated him either. And maybe that was something. That night, I went for a walk. The kind I used to take when I was younger. No destination, just motion. I thought about all the times I'd kept my mouth shut while he chipped away at me with jokes. About all the silence I swallowed, all the anger I buried. And I thought about this letter, this fragile thing he sent into the world, not knowing if I'd ever even see it. He didn't ask for a second chance, but maybe he wanted one. And for the first time, I wasn't sure if I'd say no. It was a Sunday when we finally met. I picked a public place, neutral ground. A coffee shop near the edge of town, not far from where we used to catch the bus together in high school. I picked the corner booth and got there early. Figured if I was going to do this, I wanted to be grounded. In control. Ryan walked in 10 minutes late, looking older than I remembered. His hair was thinner, his clothes hung a little looser, and his eyes, once so full of cocky energy, looked worn down. Not broken, but tired. He slid into the booth across from me. No handshake. No hug. Thanks for meeting me, he said quietly. I just nodded. A bead of silence stretched between us before he spoke again. I didn't know if you'd show. I almost didn't. He nodded slowly, staring at the table. I meant what I wrote in the letter. I believed him. But that didn't mean I was ready to let him back in. I leaned forward. You really hurt me, Ryan. He looked up. I know. No, I don't think you do. This wasn't just a few jokes or some brotherly teasing. You tore me down. In front of our family. In front of strangers. And every time I stayed quiet, you just pushed harder. I didn't think it mattered to you, he admitted. You always seemed solid. Like nothing got to you. That's because I didn't let it show, I said. Not because it didn't hurt. He looked away, jaw clenched. I was a mess. I still am. That's not an excuse, I said gently, but firmly. I know. Another silence settled between us. This one less tense, but heavier somehow. I lost everything, he said. Kelly. Lily. The apartment. My job. I kept telling myself I'd bounce back, but I didn't. I couldn't. I didn't respond right away. I wasn't here to rub it in. I don't expect you to forgive me, he said, his voice low. I just wanted to say it to your face. That I was wrong. That I see it now. I studied him. He looked sincere. Not performative. Not dramatic. Just real. I sighed. I'm not sure we'll ever be like we were. Too much happened. I get that. But I'm also not sure I want to go through life pretending I don't have a brother. His eyes flicked up, searching mine. What does that mean? It means, I said carefully, that I'm willing to try. Slowly. On my terms. No fake laughs. No pretending we're fine. If you want back in, you earn it. He nodded once. I can do that. We sat in silence a little while longer, the clink of cups and hum of conversation filling the space between us. When we finally stood to leave, there was no hug. No promises. But there was something. As he walked out the door ahead of me, I realized I didn't feel angry anymore. Just cautious. Guarded. But also open. Maybe that's all you can ask for. Not a full repair. Not a reset. Just a crack in the door. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough to start again.